Welcome to podcast number 63 for Thanks for Your Service. Our focus is on historical topics relating to the Australian military. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Just search for Thanks for Your Service. Our website is www.thanksforyourservice.net and you can email us at info@thanksforyourservice.net. Something special is happening on Saturday the 20th of May 2023 involving a war horse called Sandy. Let's find out more. Joining us on the line from Tallangatta in Victoria, Australia is Ross Smith, President of Sandy the War Horse Memorial Committee Incorporated. Ross, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for calling.
Now, on the 20th of May, something important is happening. Can you tell us what it is?
Yes, it's a culmination of 3.5 years of hard work. We're having the unveiling of a life-size statue of Sandy the Warhorse. It's, as I said, it's taking 3.5 years from the time that we really got formed and going together. Formed a committee after a little bit of conjecture of things to put in the memorial, in the park of Tallangatta. That was sort of put out on social media and everything else, and I just put up on this site that I think we should be commemorating Sandy the Warhorse instead of all this other hoolah. So we got a few strikes on that there, people wanting to reckon it was a good idea and everything. So we formed a committee in February 3 years ago. So it's sort of culminating at this weekend. Well, not this weekend, but the weekend after, the 20th.
Saturday the 20th, 2023. Now, who was Sandy the Warhorse?
Sandy was one of the three charges that Major General Bridges had. Now, he was his favourite horse. We found out that he was his favourite horse, and he wanted him to come home. Now, the big significance is that Sandy was given to the AIF, and I say given. He wasn't bought by the AIF for the wall. He was given by the O'Donnell brothers at Old Tallangatta. So there's the significance. Main part of it as he being the only horse to come back from World War One. He come from Tallangatta, and there's been no recognition anywhere for Sandy at all. So that's where the pledge took up from. There was a lady driving, a descendant of the family, has been driving this project for a long, long time. And the unfortunate part about this is at this unveiling, she is that unwell that she can't even be here. She doesn't even know anything about it anymore. She's lost her memory and everything. So, that's basically what Sandy was, and being the only one to come back to Australia.
Now, do we know the circumstances of why the horse came back to Australia? Because we'll talk about Major General Bridges in a moment, and Sandy went on to live for a few more years after he returned to Australia.
Yeah, what happened there was at Gallipoli, Major Bridges was wounded by a sniper, and they were taking the boat back and him back to France, I think it was, for medical reasons. And it was what I found out, that he was shot in the femoral artery and infected, and he died 4 days later before he got back to shore. And his last dying wish was that he takes Sandy be taken back home to Australia. So then he was in the hands of a handler and the vets in France and everything else, and then the proceedings started to get him back. And I think it was 2 years after that he was into quarantine over in France, and then back into England, and put onto the MS Burrell and sent back to Australia. Now, he landed back in the remount facility in Maribyrnong, and he was put down in 1923 because of ill health and bad eyesight. So he was buried there, less his head and neck, and 4 hooves. It is a bit of a memorial there. At Maribyrnong, we've been in contact with the Friends of Sandy, Fossil they call themselves, Friends of Sandy, Australian Light Horse, which had been going since 1986 and got a fair bit of that knowledge from there, but they haven't been able to find the actual grave of the horse. They believe it's under an asphalt road that has been, or that part of the area had been developed for housing.
And I certainly remember being originally a Canberra boy and my dad taking me to the Australian War Memorial in the 70s when it was still the old green lino floors, etc. And I have a distinct memory, and as you said, the shoulders and the head of Sandy was, I suppose, sent to a taxidermist and was mounted as a memorial in the Australian War Memorial. And I have a distinct memory of seeing Sandy mounted in the Australian War Memorial. Now, I don't think he is still mounted today, but do you know?
He is still mounted, but not at the War Memorial. He's in the other part of it and in a different area because it's failing. The taxidermy part of it's all failing. So they're taking it off display. Unfortunately, it'd be great to be able to get that all back up and running again as well. That, you know, being the only horse to come back, there's that much history in that in itself.
And what about Major General William Throsby Bridges? What can you tell us about him?
He was British, and he learnt his craft in the army in Canada. Then his parents, well, his father was a British soldier, and I think a major there. And he was, when they immigrated to Australia, Throsby Bridges come out of the Canadian force over there and joined up in Australia. I haven't done a great deal of research on Throsby Bridges for that simple reason. We've just been concentrating on the horse. So I don't know heaps about it at all.
And I think also being a Canberra boy originally, both Sandy the war horse and Bridges share a common issue, is that both were returned, and Bridges, after he died, after his wounding at Gallipoli, I think was one of the only Australian soldiers from First World War who, after their death overseas, was returned to Australia. And Bridges is buried behind Duntroon, the Royal Military College, on the hills of Mount Pleasant, from memory.
That is correct, and he set up the military school up there as well. But yeah, he set that up, and Sandy was supposed to go and be buried up there as well. There was one stage that he was the taxidermist was to take the body back up there and do all the work, but that didn't happen. There was a fair bit of conjecture about it, and he never got there. I know that they sent down later on to a lady there to get the horse exhumed, but she went home empty-handed. But yes, no, Bridges was the only soldier to come back, the only soldier to come back from World War One, and the only person to come back from the wars until the return of the unknown soldier.
That's right, exactly. So now back to the unveiling of the memorial on the 20th of May. Why now? Why in 2023?
1923 was the year that he died, or was put down. So we've been bolting ahead with the 23 for the 100-year anniversary of his death. Now, as I said, that was on the 23rd of May 23. This is going to happen on the 20th of May 2023, but that's as close as we could get to it. So we've been pushing ahead. That, from the very, very first time, has been the goal. Now, to get that to happen and everything else, had to do a little bit of behind the scenes work to get this statue made. We took a trip to, we went around chasing to find out who would we could get to do the statue. And knowing that Brett Mongarling did the statue of the man from Snowy River, we sort of called into there, and we've actually called a couple of other ones and got quotes. And Brett came back the cheapest for starters, but all the other ones the other two people had recommended Brett to do it for a price-wise and everything else because they couldn't match the price. There was no way known they could match the price because Brett's got his own foundry. So they had to outsource everything else otherwise.
And how have you raised funds for the unveiling of the statue?
A lot of hard blood, sweat and tears. Look, we've had musical festivals, musical nights, I should say. We've had raffles, just lots of little things there for starters. Then we got an $80,000 grant from the federal government through the Tallangatta Council, which really just blew us over the line. We'd had around about 70,000 raised by then, and then that got us over the line because we needed $160,000 to have the horse manufactured. So that got us over the line. But as I said, the time delay was the big thing on getting the statue made. So Brett being the guy he is, and me being the old-fashioned way I am as well, we got the process going on a handshake deal. So Brett was impressed with that our attitude towards it, and he has been absolutely brilliant all the way through.
Yeah. And are you still seeking funds or donations to help with the unveiling of the statue?
Yes, we are. Look, we've got the last little bit of it here. We've had this buy a brick because we've got other projects to carry on with it. Like one was to have the statue. Two is to have it all linked with the other memorials around of horses. We want the interactive TV. We've got a little grant from the history section to write up the story of Sandy that put in the information centre, and we want to build on that information centre as well. But we've had this buy a brick, which has been an absolutely brilliant fundraiser, and we're still doing that. We've had the pledge that we'd have these bricks, the plaques made and put on bricks before the unveiling. And we've sold over 120 of those bricks so far. And it's not just been local support for the buying of brick, it's coming from everywhere. People out of Queensland, people out of, of every state really. It's the word's got out there. The TPI in Melbourne, they have been absolutely brilliant. They've put it in their magazines and the story, the whole works, and it's just pushed it along twofold.
And what plans have you got for the actual unveiling? What's going to happen on Saturday the 20th?
Look, we're making it a big weekend, as best we can, I should say. We're starting off, we've got market stalls starting at 9-10 o'clock in the morning. Then we've got live music all day, free and live music. We've got a silent auction of all the goods that people have sent to us and haven't been able to raffle. A lot of generous donations. So we've got that going all day. Then we've got a parade of horses, which I'm hoping it's going to be, and it looks like will be 200 plus horses there. There's going to be at least 30 Australian light horses there in uniform. And so that rides out at around about 12. We're going to start from down to Tallangatta Showgrounds at about 12:30. Make a spectacle of that coming down Benil Road and forming a guard of honour out in front of the speeches and the horse. And then we'll have the speeches, the unveiling, another book launch. Then that afternoon, everything finishes there around about 4 o'clock. Not the speeches. The speeches are not going to be that long, but we finish up down at the Tallangatta triangles in the main street, and then head towards the showgrounds. And then we've got free live music up there again, a food van and a bar just to keep the nights going. And then on the Sunday, we have the Australian tent peggers put demonstrations on of the tent pegging, which we thought was fitting with the Australian light horse and Sandy. And So we've got a demonstration up there starting at 10 o'clock. And then the local Horsemen's Association, the Upper Murray Horsemen's Association, putting on a novelties day and Stockman's Challenge and everything else for the other people, just for the people that had made the time to bring their horses to the event, for the parade and the Guard of Honour. We thought we needed something else there for them to make it worthwhile coming across.
And where can people go to find out more about the unveiling and more about the donations?
Basically on Facebook is our best launch, Sandy the Warhorse on Facebook.
For the very best of luck for the unveiling of Sandy the Warhorse on Saturday the 20th of May. And thank you for your time today, Ross. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much, Dave. Thanks for getting this out there.
That's the podcast for today. You can find links to Sandy the Warhorse on our Facebook and web page. We're keen to hear your feedback by leaving a review on your podcast app, and your reviews help others find our podcast. You can help support this podcast via Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. The links are on our website and Facebook page, and your support helps us with the production of this podcast. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your service.